Hello and welcome to Ula Tea Leaf Readings. My name is Lenor and tonight I'm going to be reading your tea leaves. This is a horoscope for Scorpio. If Scorpio is your solar, lunar, ascendant/rising sign, then this is a message for you. Okay, let's get started. Let's see what these tea leaves have to say tonight. Oh, goodness. Goodness. And so our card is the moon, which is fitting because I'm recording this on Monday night. And I hope you all are doing so well. I know everybody is so busy this time of year. It seems like it's non-stop. Okay, let's see. Where do we want to start? Let me just say, the moon card is by far one of my favorites. I love the moon card because it is very dreamy. It's very much about that passage through the between, that kind of thin place where life and death kind of mingle into one another. This is where a lot of visions come from, the unconscious, the place where we go to reflect deeply. You can think of almost any of the myths of going to the underworld. If it is, Hades, hell, or just some night-sighted place. Not every underworld mythology is a place of suffering exactly, but it is a place of I guess just loss of our sense of order, right? When the sun is sort of veiled and the things come out, the terrible, as I like to call it, they creep around. And this is where we are kind of confronted with the mysteries, the unknowns, right? Parts of ourselves that might be uncomfortable to look at. And so for me, when I look at this, I think I love it. I live for this part of existence. Sometimes I think walking in the light of things, which of course is beautiful and wonderful and freeing and all this kind of stuff, but I think I dwell in those dark places because I just have such an urge to kind of excavate those mysterious things. And that's probably why I've become what I have as far as getting into divination and spiritual religious pathways, because let's face it, we are the ones that kind of take the path less traveled. And even if you are a worker of light, that means you're going to find yourself in a lot of dark places. So let's take a look. We have a person here who is kind of pointing this way. Right next to them is a bird who is perched. Looks like a woodpecker to me, if we can kind of see. But I do think that this is kind of a symbol of resolve, staying the course, doing the things that you must, even if they feel repetitive. Now, I do think that there's been some kind of messaging coming through, maybe dreams, I feel pointing out. And I look up here and I see there's almost a sense of, it looks like a beast, okay? And you can see the legs and the body, tail. It has a head, maybe like some kind of crown on it, tongue coming out. It reminds me of some kind of like Akkadian, Assyrian, ancient Babylonian, Mesopotamian kind of motif, okay? A lion, maybe. I kind of think of like the gates of Ishtar and something like this, okay? Now, I feel like this is not a beast that is, necessarily like a scary monster, but I do feel like this is kind of that thing that comes up in you when you feel like you need to protect yourself. If that is the perception of something that is confronting to you, or if there's quite literally some kind of problem happening. And as I'm looking at it, I just keep thinking about this feeling of almost having dreams. Dreams about your mother or a woman, a feminine person in a caretaker's role. Maybe it was like a grandmother, aunt, nanny, somebody who was taking care of you. And I feel like when these feelings come up, there is this remembrance of how this person would speak to you when you were scared. Okay, like what would they say to you? Were they comforting? Did they make fun of you? Did they kind of, tell you needed to be, stop being a baby about things? And I'm sure, as a parent, you think, well, we say all kinds of things to our kids. There's never just like one thing. But as a child, we remember the underlying tone of how somebody received us, how they interacted with us. Was your mother somebody that you could go to when you were afraid? Could you speak truly with her, honestly, openly? And I think that this is coming up in some way having to do with dreams, a feeling even, maybe. And it's interesting, as I've kind of worked on my experience with dream work and visions and recalling impressions of things, relationships, or how people made me feel. Sometimes I can just remember things as less of a concept or a happening, and even more as like a smell or a taste that comes into my mouth. It's weird how our brain can do that, right? Like we have these these different kinds of, you know, ties to recall and how we process those informations. And and I'm just thinking about this because I think, you know, when I think about, well, and it's funny because we do tie things to smells to our childhood and well, into all things really. But yeah, so I'm just thinking as you are maybe considering, do you resonate with this? Maybe this kind of comes up as something other than directly thinking about that feeling. But as we talk about it, I wonder if that feeling is coming up in you. Do you remember what that felt like? How did your parent make you feel? How did your caretaker make you feel? And in association to this posture that comes up in you, this very protective thing, this coping mechanism, this, you know, beast that has been created in your defense. Okay. And, you know, I think beneath the moon, you know, these things kind of flood out of us. They become a little unhinged. So we have to be mindful of how we react to things, where we go. You know, when we run into a problem or something that is out of our control, how do we react to it? Where, you know, where do we let our mind go? Where do we let our spirit go? And then our body follows, right? And so I think in this time, it's important for you to temper self, okay? Maybe don't make any big decisions right now. I think it's, you know, not a good time. There's not a lot of clarity here. On the other hand, I think this is a really good time to swim through some of your, you know, fantasies, daydreams, things that swirl in your mind. But to also be mindful to not let that affect your lasting moods and emotions. So setting aside a time and place to do this. Not unlike meditation, right? Partaking in some kind of creative outlet, maybe drawing your visions, drawing your feelings, drawing your impressions, you know, active imagination, automatic writing, you know, if you've ever done that, or drawing as well, you can do automatic drawing. But whatever it is, I think that kind of compartmentalizing this kind of work is not a bad thing. That's kind of why we have things like ceremony and ritual. Not because, you know, they have to be in this hidden place within our life, but sometimes they really do need to be contained. If you've ever, you know, seen kind of the stereotypes of ceremonial magic, quite literally, you know, there are often boundaries created with different materials. Now, I don't know if this actually holds anything in physically, but I think that, you know, employing the idea of these things helps the practitioner keep it limited to this space, right? In their mind, in their spirit, in their domain, you know. And so, let's see, what else do we have? We have a crane up here, okay. So that's good luck, good health, good luck. You know, I think that you have been feeling better as we have departed from whatever kind of tower situation went on a while back there. Now I think, you know, you're getting into the flow of things, feeling like you are more at home once again and drifting into those interior spaces. And that's why I think we have this moon card, is because you are spending more time with yourself, you know, investigating those dark corridors of the mind and psyche. But you are feeling good physically, I think, or at least trending towards feeling a little bit better. Now that might be kind of in relationship to either in the northern hemisphere with some of the weather cooling down in places, or in the southern hemisphere where it's maybe warming up, getting into those more summer-like days. Okay. Now I'm just gonna... Okay, so I see we have, it looks like maybe a child, maybe a baby in utero, a newborn. So I feel like there is a sense of renewal, okay? A new transition, like a transition into, I really feel like it's just, I feel like you've really felt this need to kind of change a lot of things, start over in most ways, at least the important ways. I think that, you know, whatever has been going on, whatever has happened, there was definitely a feeling of just not being able to take it anymore. And I feel that you have really decided, I'm going to give this my all. I'm going to, you know, start a new era in my life. I don't think this is the first one. It probably won't be the last one. If anybody has lived a very varied life, it is a Scorpio. You all are really good at having very different chapters of your life. For some reason, I was just thinking of like a Charles Bukowski, or, you know, like one of these, you know, beat writers or whatever that were really into like just picking up and moving around the country, doing different kinds of jobs, living different kinds of lives, having different kinds of significant other, like just really living differently. You know, I just, you know, you wouldn't even necessarily recognize them as the same person from every little town or city that they've lived in. They just kind of take on a different, you know, different vibe of living. And I find people like this very interesting. I've done this to some extent, maybe, you know, a lot less, but, you know, I think it's really neat that there are people who, you know, go out there and just live in different ways, do different things, have different routines, you know, have different groups of people that they exist among, you know, and then they move on and they go do something else. And I find that so brave. You know, at my age, I feel very tired. So I hope we only have like maybe one more big move in us, and then we will be set to kind of, you know, just stay where we're at. But we'll see. So, other than that, let's see what else do we... I have a hammer. This one's kind of upside down right here. So again, building something new. We have that renewed energy. Also, we have, it looks like somebody in a meditation posture, and it's a red. So, or orange, kind of that saffron color. And so I feel very centered, you know, very much about the work, knowing where you want to take yourself. You know, if that is in the physical world, if that is in the spiritual, emotional, psychic world, maybe all together. But I think that you really have somewhat of an image coming through. You have a goal. I think that it's coming together. I keep getting this feeling of old and beautiful things, like almost like for some reason I keep thinking of pearls, like a mess of pearls, like in a box. They're all twisted together, like in a knot almost, and just kind of, I don't know what it is about that. I don't know what that's, but it keeps coming into my mind as I'm doing this reading. And you know, I think that there at times, and here we have a person kind of throwing something out. At times, I think you feel quite irritable. There's a lot of emotionality here. And it gets very distorted, like in a dream. I feel like there are big waves of almost like sobbing, you know, being in a dark room, sequestering yourself, but then it kind of dissipates quickly. And I think that, you know, it's important for you to feel these feelings, let them kind of wash over you. I know that you probably get irritable, short-tempered, maybe, sharp with your words. But I do implore you to really, you know, when you feel like this, find a way to release some of that energy that does not involve people, especially the people who are close to you, especially if you live with people, your significant other, roommates, family members, whatever. I'm not saying to keep it in, don't do that, but find a way to, you know, sublimate it, put it into artwork, music, go out in the backyard like I like to do and scream. Primal screaming, you know, cutting wood. That's always my favorite one. Cutting wood, chopping wood, I should say. You know, whatever it is, banging on a drum, doing demo, building something and then, you know, setting it on fire. I don't know, but something, okay? Don't let this rule you, you know, because it really could, not unlike being like in a state of possession. Our emotions, which are not really ours, these are transient things. They don't belong to us, but we let them own us at times, okay? Don't let that happen. We have a 7. Okay, a clear 7, that seems important. And let's see what we have down here. So we have a crescent moon here, and it seems to be atop the candle. So I feel like in this very lunar period, there is a sense of kind of that inverted light. There is sacred knowledge here. There is illumination here. It is just difficult to accept. Okay, this might be something that is really hard for you. And my best advice is to take it in where you can, write it down, whatever you need to do, and then let it go for a while until you are ready. It might not be the thing that you need in this part of your process. There have been plenty of times in my work where I've looked at things and I thought, I absolutely cannot entertain that. Okay. And, you know, for my big thing was working on a blockage that had to do with, well, abuse that happened in my childhood, SA, which I won't say what, you know what that is if you are on the internet. And, you know, having that go on for a prolonged amount of time in my childhood, my early childhood, and trying to skirt around it by working on other things in therapy and spiritual work for years. And it finally came to a point where, for me, and this maybe, you know, if there are things in your life that you cannot work on, you know, or you work on, you need to have like a therapist, a psychiatrist, whatever, please do that. Have a support system, 100%. And if it's something you can't, then you shouldn't. Nobody should force you. You should not force yourself until you're ready. But it was something that I personally came to the point where I realized I had to begin more of a deeper process, because things happened in my life with more than one abuser. And some of that was easier to, as sad as that is, some of that was easier for me to talk about, in therapy. And there was one person I could not talk about. I could not do it. And I still, you know, I've begun the process of like intensive therapy for, you know, over a year or whatever. But it still is just the beginning, you know. And, but I knew for me, it was something, that was going to become impossible to go further in any direction for myself. And, you know, there was still, and still there's so much rage around it, but I felt like if I didn't start to work on this, the rage was going to consume me, right? And so, you know, I share this with you just because, you know, first I feel like we talk about really vulnerable things here. And I feel that, not that I owe it to anybody, but I want to let you know that I meet this with my full self when I do these readings. And, you know, this is really personal stuff, for all of us, you know. So, I like to be able to tell you that, the things that I talk about, you know, as far as giving advice or ideas about maybe where you could go with things, I'm not ever going to speak about things that I have no concept of, because that's just not, it's not my style. You know, I'm only going to talk about the things I do kind of have some, you know, background in or understanding of. So anyhow, you know, sometimes we are faced with this kind of inverted light that can be very hard to take in. And you don't have to. But I think that if we write it down, or if we kind of catalog it in the back of our mind, and at some point in your life, things might converge in such a way where you think, okay, this is something that I need to begin. Okay. I also want to say we have another bird here. And this bird, again, this is not the woodpecker this time, but this is the our beautiful cardinal. I love seeing the cardinals because it tells me that you have love and support from the other side. Somebody who you loved dearly and they loved you dearly. They're visiting you and letting you know that they are with you in all of this. You are not alone. You are always being held by the universe, by your loved ones, by your ancestors, your elders. Okay? And it may feel sometimes like you are that, you know, that hermit out there in the middle of the desert, just barely making one step after another, bloody feet. You haven't had water in days, but you are not alone. Okay? Not only this person from the other side, but I am here with you as well. Okay? And you only need to reach out if you need to talk about things or whatever. You know, I have an email on here, and sometimes I receive some, you know, pretty emotional emails, and I try to always honor each and every person, and I will get back to you, I promise, and do my best to listen. Listen and be there, okay? Be present. All right, so we have the Water Blessings Affirmation cards, and as the name says, these are the water element. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of go right here. We have a face. A face. It looks like a mermaid maybe. She has some scales there, or he, she, they. And it says, silent touch. Kissing the beloved and beholding joy is your dharma. So what does that mean? You know, for me, the beloved is very much akin to the Jungian sense of the beloved, or the anima animus. And this is that internal beloved, that part of self that is the whole, right? Where we are unified. And, you know, it is my work to live in love, because I find the beloved in all things. The beloved is in every aspect of my life, in your life, and we honor it well by living in love, moving with intention. I don't know about always being in a state of joy. I'm not necessarily a very joyful person very often, but I do find contentment and ease to be my thing. And love leads me there. So, yeah. All right. I want to thank you so much for spending this time with me, Scorpio. It is always such an honor. If you would be so kind as to like the video, it helps us get into the algorithm. And the algorithm definitely decides what happens with everything on every part of the internet. So we like to make it happy and give it the engagement it wants. So if that's liking the video, watching the readings from the beginning to the end, sharing the videos on other social media platforms. And of course, you do not have to do this, but I figure if you get to the end of the video and you're still listening to this, you might be more inclined to want to support the channel in some way. And these are the best ways to support the channel. Other than that, if you have not subscribed, please think about doing so. You can hit that little bell when you do. It'll let you know when the next videos are coming out. And if you want to leave a comment, for real, do. I read all of them. I reply back to all of them. I appreciate every single comment. If they're really mean, I will delete them. That's all I'm going to say. I am sensitive. But I just love hearing about your guys' lives, you know, getting to know you all, hearing about how these readings resonate and all of that. It really, it makes me so happy to go through those and feel so connected. Okay, so I want to thank you, and we will talk again in just a few days.